I'm James Cherry. Yeah, I mainly build aviation models, big ones. Really, I get inspired by doing Technic builds. So these models all function as well. They have power functions in them. So various elements of them move around with power functions radio control. So they're quite big, as I said. They weigh a lot, a little bit, delicate to move around, but they take about an hour to assemble when I get them to the shows. All standard pieces bar the glazing of the canopies, which is I use custom glazing, which I vacuum form myself. Make a mold and then vacuum form them. Just Lego bricks for the canopies just don't work for me. So yeah, I do that, and then obviously all the sticker work is custom. So vinyl cut stickers and dry rub transfers for these very small ones. They sort of rub off of a sheet onto the Lego. But that kind of completes the detail for me. I'm really into detailed models, and this is kind of the output of it, really.
Right, it really shows. The amount of detail is just incredible, especially with the build is this big. It's so cool. So what is this based off of, and what was kind of your inspiration as you worked on this?
So mainly I just build the planes that were my favorite. So I've always loved aviation. So these two are two of my favorite planes. I'm just starting another one. I have built a couple more planes in the past, but the inspiration for this particular one was thinking about doing this deck diorama, which took a whole load of time as well. At the end of building the model, I really wanted to display it on the kind of piece of the aircraft carrier deck. So yeah, it can be displayed in launch mode as well, and it also has a radio control sound module in it. So it sounds like the real F-14. So you can switch it on. I'll do it later for you guys if you want, when it's a bit quieter. Yeah, and it sounds the engine startups, everything, and it has afterburner LEDs in it as well for when it launches. So this one has been 9 months to build. Quite complicated for me. Very frustrating at times, but it's kind of worth it now.
Yeah, so it takes a lot of time and dedication for this. So it's the F-14 is kind of the real life plane. Did you use photos of that and stuff as you worked on it?
Yeah, I study each of the planes I build. I study for probably a couple of months in advance of starting, and I blow up scale drawings, scale plans, and then I start, measuring everything. So I make sure I always stay exactly to scale. Mostly, it's within a couple of millimeters of the blueprints. So that's kind of the process I used to start with, and then I build a Technic frame inside and the functions, and then kind of skin it, if you like. And the skinning is the bit that takes the time, especially this plane. A lot of angles all over it. Very difficult. Lots of mixel ball joints and hinges to get the various shapings done. Yeah.
So when you start on a build of this size, what's kind of the first part that you build of the plane when you're working on these types of builds?
The internal frame. So where I know the weight's going to go down through the undercarriage legs, that's what I build. I kind of know how heavy it's going to be and how much strength I need to build into the Technic frame. That's the first piece, just so I can get it strong enough to support itself. Then from there I start adding the functions, figuring out where I think they're going to go and how I'm going to control things. Some are axle controlled, like these spoilers. Some are Lego string on pulleys. So I figure out the best way to do all the functions, plumb all that in, if you like, and then start trying to cover it. But inevitably I have to rebuild the thing like 3 times to get back to to actually get everything working.
And you mentioned it was a little bit fragile, so how do all the different parts of this come together? Does it break apart in sort of modules so you can move it around and stuff?
Yeah, all the wings come off, the tailplanes come off, the fins, the nose, canopies, lots of bits come off, and then it takes about an hour, say, to reassemble once I get to a show. But it's not too bad. That one's a little bit more fragile, to be honest. This one came first, and I learned a few lessons when I did this one. Yeah, it's bit by bit you sort of pick up things and you realise, I'm not going to do that again, and you change your ideas for the next time.
Right, and I noticed you mentioned this deck earlier as well. You got a lot of these big like tile pieces. Where'd you get those from?
Yeah, all brick linked. Yeah, they're like $1.50 each or something, and there's 400 of them. So it's I think there's like sort of maybe 800 of these. I don't know. A lot of bulk buying went on here. I cleaned people out of these completely. It's not something I'm that in. I'd rather be building planes than carrier decks, but just wanted to do it kind of once to set this plane off. It's one of my favourite ever planes, so kind of made sense. And I did the deck crew as well, the tow tractor. My good friend Joe Perez designed the crew men, and I built versions of them. So I'm not a very good figure builder, but he's awesome. They're all you can move them around, fully articulated figures, so you can pose them in the launch poses that the deck crew on aircraft carriers do.
Right, those are really impressive. Yeah.
For such a small scale, he's did an amazing job. Yeah.
So how did you decide on this scale? Because these are definitely bigger than a lot of the military models I see at conventions. So is this scale what you've always built in, or did you kind of build up to this over the years?
These are both 15th scale, and the main driver for scale is either the wheel, what available wheels you've got, which would need to look scale, or, to be honest, the biggest thing with these two was the missiles, limited round bricks, and the Tomcat carries 3 different size missiles. So to get all 3 in scale, there's only one scale that really works and came out 15th, which happens to be about the size I wanted to be building in anyway. So it's kind of lucky. But that drove the scale of these. My next plane was going to be a bit bigger scale, but it's a smaller plane. It's a Sea Harrier, and that will be, the missiles will be slightly bigger. So I use the next brick up for the missiles on that one. But those are the 2 really defining factors, that if you don't get them built to get them right, then the plane won't really look a very scale model.